Heavenly Father, we come to you again to pray for the end of this coronavirus. And oh Lord, to help us through the power of the Holy Spirit to follow your teachings in all things, but in particular with the coronavirus. In the words of Philippians chapter 2, verse 4, that everyone think not according to their own interest, but also to the interest of others. And also from John chapter 13, verse 34, the words of Jesus Christ. Love one another as I have loved you. And this I command you, that you love one another. O Lord, help us through the power of the Holy Spirit to be mindful of others and caring of others in dealing with this coronavirus. We pray this in Christ's holy name.
Amen.
Amen. Join me in pledging allegiance to our flag. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We do have a quorum. Are we on? I didn't even ask if we were on. Good. We do have a quorum here tonight. I think we have Mayor Pro Tem Vela on the screen there. Citizen comments, we have one that turned in, Mr. Chevelle Lopez.
Good evening, Council. My name is Chevelle Lopez. I reside at 1002 Avenue West. And today I want to talk about the treatment of the workers here in the city of Hondo. So I'm giving the mayor and the council, I'm giving them an F on the treatment of workers for failing to give the workers a good pay raise, a good pay raise, a good across-the-board pay raise, especially right now in the pandemic where everything's going up. The food prices at HEB are getting ridiculous. Health insurance, the city workers now have to pay more health insurance, more premium because of the premium that you picked at the last meeting. And so I believe, that the workers should be treated fairly. They're the ones that perform all the work for you, for the community, for the council, and all the folks that live here. And they should have been given a good pay raise, and they weren't. The other thing I want to talk about is the services. Also, I want to give the mayor and the council an F on services. I took a drive around town yesterday, and we're supposed to have our fall pickup, trash picked up between the 4th and the 8th, and everybody's got their trash out. I got trash in the middle of my driveway. I can't get in there because I thought the trash was going to be picked up, and it wasn't. So I don't know why it wasn't picked up. Was it because the mayor vetoed, or we don't have a 21-22 fiscal budget, or what? Also, I've been seeing a lot of brush all over the place. It's not being picked up on time. And the other thing I want to talk about is the American Rescue Plan Act. I don't know what you're going to do with that money, but that money, there should have been some type of community process where businesses and organizations don't have to be a 501c3 either to submit a proposal, and even individuals can submit a proposal. But I don't think that was done here in Hondo. And I know you're supposed to receive some more money from the American Rescue Plan Act in 2022, and hopefully there will be community process involved in this particular money, you know. And hopefully we can look at an equity process also, an equity study. All right, thank you.
Do we have any others that called in, emailed in, or, no? Okay. Moving on to item 6, discuss and consider approving the minutes from the city council of September 27th.
Mayor,
And
before we go further, did not the city manager send the group an email effective September 30th? We couldn't attend meetings virtually? I'm just referring to his email.
You would have to attend the meetings virtually, and you'd have to be audio as well. You couldn't just be audio.
Just audio?
Correct. It has to be virtually and audio.
Okay. Just asking.
as I said, the minutes of the 27th and the 20th, they're in front of you. You had them over the weekend. Do we have any corrections or additions to those minutes?
I do.
Okay.
I did not see in the minutes where Mayor Pro Tem and I requested the information
If they're,
for the fund balances for
Yeah, the
2020,
one on this
2021. Unless I missed it, but Mayor Pro Tem Vela echoed my request, and I don't see it on here, and we have yet to receive the information.
You know
What item number would that have been?
That was, we were talking about the budget, when she was talking about the amendments that were being made. I believe it was FG, 9 amendments, and I don't see that.
Do you want to
I would like
place
to,
that
if
into
they,
the minutes?
I would like for them to add it back.
Okay, Ms. Reyes, can you add that into, I guess it's the, for all the amendments, so.
Other than that, I
Would
didn't,
that be 7?
that'd be 7.
Do we have any other additions or corrections? Motion to approve them as corrected.
So moved.
Second.
Those- All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Against?
Aye.
Motion carries. City manager reports.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have 2 updates for you this evening regarding city finances. First, I want to bring to your attention is in response to Councilman Vela's request for 5 years of data supporting earlier statements made that the city has approved budgets for multiple years with a deficit. And if you look over to your right here on the screen, this was a spreadsheet prepared by the city's virtual CFO, Chief Financial Officer.
Excuse me. Who made that request?
The city's virtual, who made the request?
Yes.
Johnny.
Okay, you said Vela.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
So, what happened to the request that I made on September the 27th, where I wanted that information provided to the council as a whole? Not just to me. I requested, and Mayor Pro Tem Vela sat in that chair, and he echoed my same remarks, and he looked right at you, and Judy, because Judy was making the presentation,
Right.
and he echoed my remarks. I didn't want it just for me. He made the request to send it to each and every one of us to include the mayor. Now you're going to give us a report about 5 years when the most important thing on this table at the moment is the fund cash balances that we requested.
I have a cash balances for you this evening as well.
I requested it on paper, Scott.
Okay.
You have it on screen. That should have been provided to us so we could look at it too.
I can't even read it from here.
If that's what you have for us, like Councilman Duarte says, we need to have it in front of us. I requested that prior to last council meeting also. And now you want to present it to us on the screen.
Well, I'll provide you a hard copy, but I am providing the information that you requested. If you want a hard copy, I'll provide you that as well, so. So the update for you this evening, the city's virtual chief financial officer has confirmed that the city has approved budgets with expenditures exceeding revenues for the past 7 years. The city from fiscal year 2014 to 2015 through 2020 and 2021 approved budgets with a deficit on an average of $1 million shortfall annually. The budget that was presented to council this year for fiscal year 21-22 is a balanced budget. So on an average for the past 7 years, the council has been adopting budgets with a $1 million.
It's a balanced budget now because of all the movements you made. Because at first you had a $440,000 deficit, and now you're saying that the budget is balanced because of all the movements you made around in different areas, right?
We have a balanced budget. What we presented to city council this year was a balanced budget, sir.
Amendments were for last year's budget.
I'm not talking about amendments.
You
That's,
said amendments. The
No, I
amendments
didn't.
were for last year's budget.
I never
20,
mentioned
21.
amendment.
The proposed budget that we haven't passed in the mayor veto, that was the balanced budget, that's what he's talking about.
Do you have any information that shows at the end of each year whether our expenditures exceeded our revenues?
Actually, our cash fund balances, sir, actually improved quite a bit.
What I'm saying is historically, the city has underestimated revenues and overestimated expenses. But year in, year out, it's come out to where we were ahead of the game at the end of the year.
Right,
So
and that is correct. You are correct, sir. But part of the issue with that understanding is that the general fund has a significant fund balance. And that fund balance is due to the electric fund. If it wasn't for the electric fund, the general fund would not be with the fund balance they have to this date.
that's
And
happened.
the electric-
that's been the case for years, you know. We know
Well, the
that,
electric
we
fund
know
was-
that the electric department is the one that keeps the city going.
Yeah, but it's the electric fund that is your largest revenue producer for the city. And it's the one with the least fund balance other than the airport. So your one business being the electric fund that generates a significant amount of money for the city is not meeting the requirements for a fund balance. Because we've been taking almost 50% of our funds for the general fund, from the electric fund, over to the general fund to cover our expenditures.
I don't disagree with you on that. The only thing is, that's what, was a matter of agreement between the council all these years. Now it's gotten to the point where we need to slow down the amount of transfer, that's another
Yeah,
thing.
and that's exactly sort of why I'm bringing it to your attention, because if you go back and you look at the history, the electric fund was actually in the hole, I forget which years it was, 700,000 one year. And we need to find ways to lessen our need from revenues from the electric fund on the general fund side in order to make certain we're spending the monies in the appropriate funds at this point. I'm not saying you're not gonna have transfers from the electric fund, but over almost 50% of your revenue in the general fund comes from electric fund.
That's why I'm interested in the fund balances at the end of the year, not the comparison to budget, but the actual fund balances and how many days we have in each fund balance at the end of the year.
Well, I can tell you, all your funds, other than the airport and electric fund, are at least meeting 60 to 90 days. Your electric fund is the one that's been suffering, and that's the one that we need to focus on in the upcoming years. And something the city needs to be thinking about, how are we going to decrease our reliance on the electric fund for revenues, so we can start spending those monies in the electric fund and keep up with capital improvements in electric as well.
So, how is that, anybody can answer me please, but how is that possible if the electric fund is the moneymaker. I mean, I'm not gonna bring a stack of books, but every month during the budget cycle, only the last meeting on September the 27th was it brought up that we had to make an amendment to put money in the electric fund to keep it from a deficit. But yet here we are talking about it being the moneymaker, and we can't rely on it as we have in the past.
Porky,
That's the moneymaker.
sir, I'm sharing this information with council as a financial red flag to the city. That for years, the city has been transferring significant amount of revenues from the electric fund to the general fund to subsidize our O&M. I'm not saying a certain amount of a transfer shouldn't occur, but we're at a level that, in my opinion, is significant.
So in other words, we shouldn't be transferring electric funds into the general fund when the electric fund is the moneymaker?
No, what I'm saying is we need to look at reducing that. You're not gonna change that, change the pattern that has been going on for years as far as transferring funds from the electric fund to general fund. But we need to start putting financial policies in place where the general fund lessens its reliance on the electric fund.
I guess I still wonder when we're gonna get those fund balance figures.
I will get those to you this week, sir.
Are you gonna email them, or are you gonna give it to us?
I will email them to you, sir.
What else do you have on your city manager report?
Okay, my second update is in response to the mayor's reasons for vetoing the budget for fiscal year 21-22. And I'm providing this report with the hope that hopefully tonight we'll make some ground on improving the budget for fiscal year 21-22. The first reason the mayor provided for vetoing the budget was due to a lack of funding for equipment in the police department. The police chief has stated that not all the equipment the mayor refers to concerning his veto is needed at once. With the recent amendment to the fiscal year 21-22 budget, the equipment the police department needs immediately is in the budget for fiscal year 21-22, which includes $82,700 for purchase of 2 vehicles and equipment, which includes a grant and our match, over $50,000 for body cameras, $22,500 for vests, and the department currently has 10 new radios, with the remaining radios being purchased with future grant funds. So the immediate needs for the police department have been addressed in the fiscal year 21-22 budget. The second reason the mayor provided for vetoing the budget was due to a lack of discussion on the use of American Rescue Plan funds. Since the American Rescue Plan funds don't need to be spent until December 2024, the City Council has ample time to discuss how they wish to spend the American Rescue Plan funds. Although the American Rescue Plan funds are earmarked in the fiscal year 21-22 budget, we have 2 options to resolve this issue, hopefully today. One, we can remove the American Rescue Plan funds from the budget when the City Council agrees on how to spend the money and come back and amend the budget later. 2, leave the American Rescue Plan funds in the budget as a placeholder, as they're currently earmarked, knowing the funds cannot be spent until the City Council approves a purchase contract. Staff does not have the authorization to spend $1 million in American Rescue Plan funds without the City Council's approval. So even though the funds are earmarked in the budget, staff cannot proceed with that purchase until council authorizes it. The reason for vetoing the budget due to the lack of discussion, although valid, should be reconsidered since the council has until December 2024 to spend the funds, and the assurance that the funds will not be expended until discussions have taken place. The third reason the mayor provided for vetoing the budget was he wanted the following positions reinstated in the budget: assistant to the city secretary, administrative assistant to the city manager, and assistant public works director. The supervisor for each of the positions the mayor wants to put back into the budget has stated the positions are not essential to their operations. In addition, 2 of the 3 positions are vacant. The total cost of maintaining these 3 positions is roughly $200,000. Since 2 of these 3 positions are vacant, and the management team who oversees these positions has stated they're not needed, the reason for vetoing the budget to reinstate these jobs should be reconsidered. The mayor's 4th reason for vetoing the budget is to reduce the human resource director's salary. I'm concerned that this particular reason for vetoing the budget was to target a specific employee. While the police chief was serving as the interim city manager, he changed the human resource / payroll coordinator title to director of human resources and increased her pay from $22 an hour to $35 an hour. And in October, she received a 5% COLA raise. And in March, the police chief increased Sharon's pay rate again from $36 to $40 per hour.
Can you hold on, please?
Yes.
Can you not use her name? Because the last time that her name was used in error, you sent out an email with a letter from her saying that it was me.
Yeah.
And I asked you to listen to the replay of the meeting, and that it was not me.
Okay.
So please refrain from using her name.
I'll continue going forward.
Thank you.
Sharon received 3 rate increases with 6 months.
Please do
within
not
6
use her
months.
name.
2 of their increases were approved by the police chief and the other by the city council. A similar scenario took place with Judy. The police chief in September changed the finance assistant's title to assistant finance director. He increased her pay rate from $18 an hour to $26 an hour, and she received a 5% COLA in October. Then in January, the police chief changed her title again from assistant finance director to chief financial officer, increasing the pay rate from $28 to $36 per hour. Thus resulted in 2 title changes and 3 rate increases. In addition to Judy and Sharon receiving title changes and pay rate increases, the police chief promoted 8 employees, changed titles on 4 occasions with rate increases, and implemented 6 pay rate adjustments. The reason to veto the budget because of an excessive increase in compensation for the human resource director should be reconsidered due to his potential of targeting an employee, since there were several other employees who received raises also.
I am looking at the 2021 budget right here. I just happened to bring it with me to this meeting. And all those that are highlighted, you can see them. Not one of those, since you're adamant about that, there is no HR director position in this budget. There is none. It says finance / personnel coordinator. And I looked and looked and looked, and I could not find an HR director on here, on this budget, which what we're talking about right now.
Yes, sir.
I did find the planner 2, who was filled, and I did find, hey, look, Assistant Director of Public Works. It's right here. The other one that I highlighted, City Secretary. But you're talking about what was not in the best interest of Hondo or the city.
Right.
And you have kept that position. You have kept it, knowing full well about the veto. So I would have thought that you would have visited that, taken a look at our 2021 budget, and said, you know what, let me fix this temporarily, so the veto is removed, and then we can apply it. But, like you told me in your email when I asked you for the information on the 2021 cash balances, I'll send you whatever, so this is telling me that you do whatever. It's right there.
Wasn't that budget approved?
I'm not making it up.
Last year?
I'm not making it up. It's
He's
right
talking
there.
about the 21-22 budget,
Oh.
and I'm assuming that,
It's not
obviously,
on.
we didn't make a change in the position from the title.
Oh.
The title of Human Resource / Personnel Coordinator to HR Director.
Oh.
But it's been signed off on. I mean, her title is HR Director. And she's
It's not in the budget.
Is the dollar amount
If
reflect her pay
We're talking a budget.
in the budget?
Right.
Does it?
Her dollar amount should be reflected in the budget.
That was just an oversight.
Right. Because if you go back to the cost center, specifically for HR, it shows her salary.
Have you not reduced some of the people that the chief increased their salary during the interim period?
The only ones that I have reduced, Porky, look at the cost center in the budget, and you're gonna see her salary.
I'm looking at the budget right now that you provided.
Yeah, but look at the cost center for human resources, and you will see her salary.
Her position is not listed on here, and that's what I'm gonna go by. I'm
The
not
cost
lying, I'm not,
center is for human resources.
this is not fake
and
news,
she's
I'm
an
not making
HR
this up,
director.
it's right here. It's in black and white, highlighted in green.
Is it possible that in a stack of paper that big, there could be one mistake like that?
Not if I've got two of them to say the same thing. But, go ahead, Scott, proceed.
Answer my question.
I'm sorry, what was your question?
Have you not reduced some of the people that were increased during the interim period?
Yes, I have. Those who were provided interim salaries, yes, I did. Which included the police chief, who's given an interim salary as interim city manager, and then an interim salary for Buddy, who was the assistant director of public works, but serving as the director at that time.
So you felt like the HR director's salary was okay compared to what she was doing?
Her salary was not interim, sir.
That
based on-
that chief increased?
Her salary
You're
was
saying that was
permanent.
okay?
The other positions were interim, sir, based upon the paperwork.
Okay, but being because the word interim wasn't in there, and everybody knew that there were gonna be an interim position, just because the word interim's not in her salary, it's okay to leave it.
Well, Brian, the police
No,
chief, was
is it
serving as
okay
an
to leave-
interim city, that's an interim job. Buddy was serving as an interim director of public works.
So was she.
There was no interim HR.
The interim.
It was a new
the
position
interim-
title given to her,
The word
Johnny.
interim was not stated in there, so it's okay to leave her salary at what it was.
Her title was not interim, sir.
That's what I'm
Her
saying.
title was permanent.
No.
The others were interim.
She knew it and everybody else knew it, but being that she's the one that does all the paperwork and everything, she just left it at that.
There were other promotions given
That's
besides the HR director.
Mayor Pro Tem Vela knows, true to his heart, that all positions were interim. He just won't say and speak up about it. He knows.
All right. You have anything else?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. Any questions of him before?
Yeah, I have a question. Did you get us what I asked at the last council meeting, to get us the attorney fees for both personnel and our legal counsel?
No, sir, I did not.
Why not?
I will get that to you. I don't remember it, but I will get that to you.
I wrote it,
Okay.
Scott, Mayor,
I know it was asked of him.
it was, and every time you come up here, I wasn't aware. And you don't do what we tell you to do. Us 5 people, well, including him over there,
Johnny,
you work
Johnny,
for us.
I provided you
You work-
balances, and whether,
And I asked you for that also.
and I will get that to you, Johnny.
And to the rest of the council.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
They hired someone for a personnel attorney, and we don't even know what their fees are. Nobody does. Well, maybe you do, maybe somebody else does.
No,
I don't.
Councilman Williams asked him in the meeting
No,
prior
I
to
said I
September
don't know what
27th.
either their rate is.
That's why we asked to get
No,
both
you said-
for personnel and our legal counsel what we're paying them for.
And I will get those fees to you too.
That's exactly what you said last time.
Okay, all right. Anything else? All right, thank you. Item number 8, Public Works reports.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. A quick update on the Public Works Department. I'm working on a insert for the council packet going forward that'll be much more analytical, and we'll have more metrics for you to consider going forward. Should have that by the next council meeting. But for this current session, streets repaired 296 potholes and completed 28 work orders of varying complexity. But on another note, more significant is the 14th Street update I'd like to include. The plan is to pave that entire street the 28th and 29th of October, and it should be fully open to traffic the first week of November, which is significantly ahead of this February due date. Little good news there, and that is, of course, weather.
Very good.
So,
How do your work orders stand right now?
very good. There's a few that look like they've been in there a while, but it's because they're being held for some particular reason. There's not a backlog of any work orders in any of the divisions.
So you don't have a significant amount of work orders out?
Well, they're processing them as fast as they're coming in. It fluctuates week to week on how many we get, but there's no current backlog just because of staffing levels.
Okay. Any other questions, Public Works?
Yes, I asked the question, and I know that you weren't here, and Scott wasn't here, when we purchased, I'm going back to this equipment, because it's just sitting there. Did you get any information for us on what I asked at the last council meeting about how we're gonna utilize this equipment that we got sitting there for over a year?
Right, I'm actually preparing a proposition for y'all that will address that issue. In a nutshell, that is not the equipment that we need to do the work that we are tasked with. That is construction equipment that we are not trained, not suitably staffed for, would be the best way to put it.
Who were the people that were, over a year ago, they told us that the people that we have in the street department were gonna be trained to use this equipment. Are those people still working for us, or are they not? Or have
Yes,
they
sir,
left?
they are. And they are trained to use it, but that is street reconstruction equipment. It's made for doing kind of like what's going on 14th and U, major rehab of a street, and we're not currently staffed or prepared to do that kind of work. Our target work is maintenance, and construction of that nature is generally outsourced to
Mayor,
subcontractors.
when we purchased this equipment 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, whenever it was, weren't we told that they were gonna be able to repair some of the streets that we had? That was the reason.
So what he just said is kind of shocker to me, because we were told that that equipment could be utilized for our normal maintenance activities. And it was over $500,000, $600,000 worth of equipment. And this has been come up several times since then. This is the first time we've been told that equipment was not adaptable to our staff's usage.
We physically can use the equipment, but it is arduous at best, and we have another piece of equipment that does the exact same function for when we do need to get in and rehab a section of street. We have another piece that's much more adaptable to that. That is a very large piece of equipment. It's made for major road construction.
Should we keep that equipment?
No,
then?
sir, I'm going to be bringing you a proposition to sell it.
What equipment was used on Avenue N when they trained on Avenue N that they did, I don't know, 2 or 3 blocks of Avenue N with that equipment that we bought?
I'm really not sure if they were using that piece of equipment that I'm referring to. There's 2 pieces out of those 4 that I'm going to be recommending that we sell. The other 2 we do have use for.
I need you to find out for us, David, like I said, I know that you weren't here when we purchased all this equipment, because I mean, they told us that if we purchase this equipment, we can get started on the streets, and nothing's been done. Find out what equipment they used on Avenue N. Find out what equipment they used on 17th Street between Avenue P and Avenue R. Because there's some streets that can be repaired the way those 2 streets were repaired. Okay?
The main difference in the two, yes, sir, the main difference in the two pieces of equipment is the large one that was purchased in that bulk purchase is a 6-foot wide zipper, basically. It tears up the street with a 6-foot wide path. And it actually chains to the front of a front end loader. The other piece we have is a 3-foot, so they would have used one of those two pieces. With the 3-foot, of course, you're gonna have twice the passes, but it's a much more manageable piece of equipment that goes on the front of a Bobcat.
Is the equipment that you're saying that we can't utilize, is that the most expensive one we bought?
Yes, sir.
David, I have a question. So if I hear you correctly, that job that our street department completed over there by the co-op in the National Guard, where they hot mixed it. So our street department wasn't supposed to do that? Or we don't want them to do that? Or they don't know how to use the equipment? Because I can answer number 3. I've got videos where they were trained on that equipment
Yeah, they know how to.
by the supplier of that equipment. So there's nowhere in town that they can hot mix on their own without having to get a contractor, because they were using that spreader box. Hell, they did a good job. I mean, I think that's what Johnny's talking about, that one of the pieces. So, I mean, they are qualified to use that.
They certainly are. It's not an issue of training. Of course, practice makes it better, but they are technically trained to use all the equipment they have in-house right now. I'm not sure what they used at 18th and why. I wasn't involved in that process, but they are trained to use hot mix, and in the 22 budget is a 4-ton hot mix trailer that allows them to effectively use and recycle hot mix. Right now it's very hard to keep hot mix hot.
So is that spreader box outdated?
No, that piece is good. That one we would not be recommending to get rid of. That's a valid piece of equipment. They use it pretty regularly, and it does a good job.
Well, I think I can speak for everybody. We'd like to see that proposal you have, because it's kind of like I say, we
I understand, absolutely.
Any other questions?
Thank you, David.
Move on to item 9, discuss and reconsider ordinance number 12440921, an ordinance making appropriations for the support of the City of Hondo, Texas for fiscal year beginning October the 1st, 2021, and ending September the 30th, 2022, and adopting the annual budget for the City of Hondo for the 2021-2022 fiscal year, and setting the effective date. I'm open for discussion or a motion. No motion, the item dies for lack of a motion. Moving on to 10, discuss and consider ordinance 1248-10-21, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Hondo, Texas, authorizing amendments to the interim fiscal 2020-2021 annual budget of the City of Hondo, Texas for the 2021-2022 fiscal year, providing supplemental appropriations to the general fund for $52,149.50, electric fund for $6,250, water wastewater fund for $6,850, airport fund by $2,750, and providing other matters related to the subject. Judy Narezo.
Mayor and Council, tonight I present to you the amendment to amend the interim fiscal year 2021 for fiscal year 2021-2022 budget. The current budget was amended in November of last year to include an increase of 2% to afford a 5% cost of living across the board for all employees. Given that we're continuing to use the FY21 budget into the new year, if it is not amended tonight, then we would continue forward with the 5% cost of living that is in the budget currently. It went into effect last year of the pay period beginning October 27th, so it'd be in the next coming weeks. Tonight I present to you an ordinance amending that budget to be just the 4% merit that we previously discussed.
So Judy, are we talking, because I did a little note here. First paragraph, are we going back and forth from merit to COLA and COLA to merit?
So since we're continuing to use last fiscal year's budget in the interim basis, it includes a 5% COLA that was adopted in November 9th of 2020. It was brought to council to increase the budgeted 3% to 5%, so it was a 2% increase to allow for a 5% across the board.
It was approved during the last budget cycle by the previous council, so the COLA was never given to the employees?
It was given, it started the pay period beginning October 27th, and given that the new fiscal year started and we're using the existing budget, it includes a 5% cost of living, given that it was amended in November of last year.
But they were given the 5% last year.
Yes. So since we're continuing to use last year's budget in this new year, if not changed,
The 5% is what's in effect currently.
is what's
And so
set
when we
aside.
start payroll this week, it's the 5% increase that the employees would receive unless we decide to move forward with the merit that you approved in the 21-22 budget, because we're under the 2021 budget currently.
Have y'all already got to the point of considering merit raises and all that?
So we're under the 2020.
And you already got to the point of the valuations of the merit raises and all that?
No, sir, we haven't.
It's for the budget, right?
Right, it's for the budget.
It's just to put the 5% in.
The budget we are under currently is the budget you approved last year,
I know,
which
I understand
include,
that. You're not spending the money right now.
well,
No, so last year there was no evaluation process. They were given evaluations, but it wasn't based on the cost of living. It was just across the board regardless of your evaluation.
I understand across the board. But the merit raises couldn't be ready already.
No, sir. Normally the merit raises that council budgets goes into effect the January payroll, if I'm
but the
correct.
budget we are under currently is a 5% COLA for the year.
So the 4% that we approved to put into the proposed budget, they now, since we didn't pass that budget, we now have to add another percent to that 4% to put in the budget so that the numbers kept whole in the event that we don't pass it.
Well, you approved a COLA last year. So it went into effect the beginning of the fiscal year.
That was the pay period.
So
beginning of
we have a
October.
pay period coming up this week.
Right.
And so the 5% would go into effect unless you tell us otherwise, because we're under
The
the 2021
5%
budget.
cost of living.
Right.
Well, it should stay there, that's a
I
cost of living.
thought we had a 5% merit.
No, it's 5%. And
The
then,
merit was 1 to 5% based on evaluation.
Okay, so you wouldn't be giving them 5% right
An
now.
average of 4% as the cost
For,
for.
for 21-22.
right.
Well, we're talking about two different things, right? Cost of living and merit raise, two different things.
Should be.
I have one more question. And Judy or Scott?
We never discussed the cost of living COLA for the 21-22 budget.
Yes, we did. We did.
We had that debate about whether it was a merit or a cost of living adjustment.
Thought we split it, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, well.
From the very beginning, we talked about doing a cost of living increase for the upcoming fiscal year until we had an opportunity to come back and reevaluate the classification compensation
So
plan.
remind me
And-
again, what do you have in the 21-22 budget? Is it a merit or is it a COLA?
It's a
or
merit
what is
based
it?
upon what council had recommended the last meeting we had, and we went back and made an adjustment to the budget. The merit is in the 21-22 budget. But
Not a
current,
COLA,
pardon?
not a COLA. A merit, not a COLA.
A merit, yes, sir.
Yeah.
No, I have a question. When the 21-22 budget comes into effect, the COLA is gonna, we're not even gonna look at it because we're talking about it tonight.
Well, what I'm hoping is that we'll get action from you tonight for one or the other, because that will allow us to at least give staff some direction. What are we operating on? Are we operating the merit that you had tentatively approved under the 21-22 budget? Or are we moving forward with the 5% COLA, which is currently in effect? And that's the direction we're looking for from council this evening. So you have two options, the COLA, which is currently in effect, or the merit, which was 4%.
4% we budgeted.
Right.
So the 2021 was COLA?
No, it was a merit, we budgeted 4%.
2021.
2021, yes.
2021
Yes, was a COLA.
Not a COLA.
Yes, the original budget was a merit, and then it was brought to council in November, and they amended it to a COLA.
So, Judy, here you're saying right here, in the financial impact, that, the fiscal year 21 budget that is being used on an interim basis to include a 4% merit rather than a 5% COLA, which was approved last year. But then you come back and tell us that the 4% merit will increase, the 4% merit increase will reduce the cost, by each fund.
Yes.
So, my question still is the same. If we're gonna approve this right here, and when the 21-22 budget comes to fruition, is there gonna be another COLA built in that one? Because then you're giving them 10% in 1 year.
So what this is,
Right.
it's basically gonna align for what you all were looking for the New Year's budget. This will amend the 5% COLA that was adopted in November down to a 4% budget, meaning that with the new payroll, we won't allow that 5% COLA added to the personnel cost. Essentially, this would reduce expenses down to the 4%, which we have budgeted for the new year. So it's really reducing expenses to align for the 4% merit that we have planned that's in the proposed budget.
Right, but this one here, the motion is for the 21-22 budget.
Because we're using it as an interim basis until you all adopt the budget.
You're using what on an interim basis?
The
There's a
last-
lovely word again.
The last fiscal year budget.
2021.
Yes, but it's
What?
within the new fiscal year.
Here it says 21-22. Right there.
That's if we act tonight, like, we need to make a decision so they can move forward.
I understand.
Because that's when it ends.
Because item 9 died for lack of a motion.
21 budget ended in
September 30th,
September, so we're already in the new.
we're already in the new
We're
year,
already in the new fiscal
We're just
year
using
budget, so.
the old budget.
No, we do have a
When
budget.
the next payroll is it October, you said October 22nd?
This week.
Yeah, this week's payroll.
Oh, this week.
Yeah. Last year, we put in effect the 5% of the week, the
But-
payroll week of
but
10/27.
If this is an amendment to the 21-22 budget, and that died due to lack of a motion, item number 9, how can we amend 21-22 when it doesn't exist?
It's just for the interim budget, so when you all would adopt the budget, of course that would take effect. But this amendment would be in line to what we are doing with the adopted budget as well,
We are
which is the
operating under
4%.
2021 right now.
So we need to have action based on, do we need to stick with the 4% or let the 5% roll from last fiscal?
What's before you is to amend the interim budget, which is the 2021, for the 4%. Because the 2021 budget was a 5%. Right.
2022 budget is.
Because we're under the 2021 budget right now. So you're amending the 2021 budget.
Well, I don't feel like we ought to amend anything. If item 9 died for the lack of motion or lack of anything,
This one, we're gonna be
I don't see why we'd have to approve that.
So Scott, but what y'all are saying is if we don't act and we just let it
They
continue
should
the way
say-
it is,
they
it's
should
gonna
say,
cost the
right?
city 52,000 more in the general fund, assuming it's just across the board.
That's
total
correct.
raise.
Be-
Correct.
It's gonna cost the city 6250 in electric, and then it goes on and on. So it's like a total of what, about 75,000?
It's like 69,000.
Right.
21-22. That's why we need to make a decision, Johnny. If we leave it as is, we're $75,000 in the hole.
I understand
We're gonna
exactly
have to
what's
spend
going on.
something by $75,000
I-
to make it balance.
Wes, I understand, but I showed it to Brett and he agrees with me. I mean,
Well, I agree that I think the motion would be accept an amendment to the 2021 budget, right?
We can
Correct.
say interim,
Cor-
It
yes.
says,
Yes.
before you were showing me, it says motion to accept one to the 21-22 budget.
Right.
But that doesn't, so I think that's just a
It's just, I should have put interim budget.
that's just a mistake on the.
The goal is to have it where we remove these expenses and it doesn't create a situation where we're gonna have a larger deficit when we do adopt the budget. This aligns for what council's goal was, to have the 4% budgeted across the board and then do a 1 to 5% merit increase. So it's adjusting the budget that's in effect now to align with the goals for the New Year's budget.
Brad, I think the wording's correct, because if you read it, authorizing amendments to the interim fiscal year 2020-21 annual budget, which is 5%, and that's what we're under currently. So you're amending the 2021 budget to 4% for the fiscal year 21-22 that we're in. So you're amending the budget that we're currently operating under, which is 2021.
But I'm reading
All
the
right.
proposed motion.
All right.
I think we're actually in 21-22 whether we vote
Right.
for it or not.
That's right,
what we say.
that's right, exactly.
So it's written here correctly, but I think we understand that we need to either let the 5% roll, or we need to adjust it for what we voted in last time, which was the 4% and with merit.
That's
So
correct.
I understand, it is
Right,
correct.
that's correct.
I'm gonna ask a question. What do you recommend, Mayor?
Well, I'm a little confused over 2021 because it's 5%, but it's not COLA, it's partially merit and partially COLA. So I don't know why we would have to spend a lot of money right now at the next pay period.
Sir, the 2021 budget was COLA, and if you go back and look at the
I
minutes,
asked a while ago and y'all said it was merit.
the 2021 was all COLA.
They did.
They did. We had this discussion, 20 and 21 was just an across the board. There was no merit, because I asked that question at that meeting as to whether or not there were any, interviews, or there were any supervisor evaluations
But
or
I was
anything
told
like
it
that.
was merit and
Well, I
COLA,
think
so-
we misspoke. We're talking about 21, 22.
Yeah. It went from, I guess it went from merit to before last year.
They had 3% in it as a merit originally, and then they came back in November, as Judy had mentioned, and changed it to COLA across the board with additional 2%, so 5% raise for everybody.
Right,
And
okay. So,
actually, the
Which
first,
us three agreed to.
Under those circumstances, I
Us
don't
four
have
really,
a problem
because
with
you
it.
weren't here. If we did that in November, council approved that with an exception of Brett, because all four of us were here last November. Right?
Do I have a motion?
yes, I would like to make a motion to amend the 21-22 budget to include a 4% merit, 4% labor for merit.
did we say 2021, or
21-22,
it's the interim budget?
the interim budget. Well,
Yes, sir.
well, we just called it the 21-22.
Well, that's the fiscal year we're in. But it's,
Okay, I want to make a motion to amend the interim 2021 budget to include, to be with the 4% merit as opposed to the 5% cost of living adjustment.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
It's my understanding that Mr. Vella can be on virtual, but he can't vote because he's not here in person, is that right?
no, he just voted.
He can vote, Mayor, as long as he can be seen, his face, and heard by council and the audience.
Okay.
The only way you can't have a virtual meeting is if all of you wanted to be virtual. You have to have a quorum present in person.
Okay.
You can have one or two of you up there, not all of you.
Okay.
So,
Any other discussion?
yes. Can we make sure that it says that it reflected in the minutes, 2020, 2021 interim budget? Because number 9 died for lack of a motion.
Oh,
Yes.
Okay?
it's pretty clear.
It's for the fiscal year, I understand
It's pretty
now.
clear.
Well, it's not clear here. It was just a typo.
No, no,
Make
it-
sure that it says interim budget.
That's what it is.
This is yeah, it does say
Well,
budget.
we're operating under 2021, so any other discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Against?
Aye.
Motion carries. I think Mr. Vella voted aye.
Yes, he did.
Okay, 4-1. Moving on to the item 11, discussion and possible action regarding the American Rescue Plan funds. I've wanted to discuss this for a long time. In fact, we set up a committee months ago to get together with staff, and it never did happen. It's been on the agenda a couple of times, which partially my fault, I wasn't here. But I do remember back in our first workshop meeting over in the other building that one of the supervisors brought up the AMI meters, and we discussed how the American Rescue Plan could use that, which would pretty much eat up everything we've got so far. And but it was also mentioned that if we wanted to, we could finance partial of that American Rescue Funds. So my thought is that we really needed to get together and discuss. I know there's a couple of councilmen are interested in maybe utilizing those funds or some of those funds for something else. And that's, of course, the reason why I thought it was very important to be discussed. And so I'm open for, you've heard what I think. I think we could probably, and the city manager mentioned that we could either take that out of the budget now or leave it in the budget, because any action on the part of those funds would have to be acted upon by this council. And then or before then, we could have a discussion pertaining to how to use the funds.
I had mentioned before that we possibly could use some of these funds to recoup some of the revenue loss that the city has experienced in some of those utility bills that became delinquent due to COVID, which we do have some active accounts that are making payments. We could zero them out and, start anew. I would also like to see, based on this handout, this printout that I sent out as an email, which got no response, we can possibly sponsor a couple of scholarships at the training center to some of the programs that are offered out there. Maybe we can get some interest in the programs that have been out there and lack interest. Some of them are good, but they could be better.
Just to interrupt you, Councilman, we have to stay within the parameters of the American Rescue Funds, and we've already found that we can't use that money for the training center items.
Let's see here.
Or economic development items.
Would that fall under addressing educational disparities?
We'd have to get a ruling on that, but
Because it's right here.
I know we got a ruling already on the economic development usage of the fund.
Well, we can look into it for the educational assistance, and of course to recoup some revenue loss by paying off some of those accounts that became delinquent due to COVID circumstances. And I mean, I can go on and on reading, but I'll let some of y'all see what.
What I wanted to bring up to the rest of the council, and I think I'll talk to you, Mayor, about it, is for some of this money to be utilized for our small businesses in town that have been hurting, and they're still hurting because of the pandemic. And I wanted to see if rest of the council would agree to do the same as the Economic Development Corporation did back in, I don't know when it was, last year sometime. And another thing was to also help the people that had really been hurt on their utilities because of the pandemic, because of the lack of jobs. And I know there's not many of those that are still left, but maybe we'll help them out. Maybe like Porky said, maybe clear them out and let everybody start over. And that's what the money's for. I mean, we can't spend it for anything else. And if we don't spend it and utilize it the way we're supposed to, it's going to be lost. So we might as well just spend it on what we can.
I think there's a lot of things we can spend it on, and I'm not opposed to any of those things. I think they're all good. But I do think you know, and I don't know when you say financing AMI, I mean, $1.2 million, that's gonna be pretty much our first check. I'm not opposed to doing some of that, but a big chunk of this should go to AMI. That's gonna be a long-term benefit for the city. It's gonna last a long time. So in saying, well, we can just finance all of AMI, and that's not what we would do with our personal finances. And that's gonna cost the city a lot more money to just finance all of it. So I'm not, just to be clear, I don't know if you meant the entire thing, but I would say an overwhelming majority of the money should go to that. And then we already know that there's with the water treatment facility, that we're
gonna have to expand the wastewater.
yeah, we have to spend that money, and that's probably gonna go to that. But those are long-term benefits for the city that'll help every citizen in Hondo. Now, again, if there's things like what you're talking about, like the utility bills, those are good things we can compromise on. We can do some of that, but a big chunk of that money needs to go to AMI.
What do you mean water treatment plant, Brett?
There was the TCQ, he can
How
give
much
you.
would it cost to update the water treatment?
West Side B, I wouldn't want to take a best guess, but it's going to be in the millions.
Can
Yeah,
you
it's gonna be-
explain where we're at with the water
The
treatment?
TCQ has a 75/90% rule as far as when you should start design work on expanding your wastewater treatment plant. And I'm not certain if David will be able to address any of this, but we've already exceeded the 75% capacity at our wastewater treatment plant, which means we should be in the design phase now. And when you hit the 90% capacity, you should be under construction. So with, development that's coming into the city of Hondo, this is obviously something we need to start looking at. We should probably be designing an expansion to the wastewater treatment plant this year at a minimum, with the understanding, hopefully, construction starting within the next 2 years.
And that's probably gonna exceed the dollars that we're getting for the American Rescue?
Or gonna
It will,
affect
okay.
our wastewater treatment plant?
Any business at this point, because if you're already
We're
at
already at
75%,
75%.
any growth that you start to put on the system is gonna have an impact.
And you provided that to us?
No, but we can do that.
Well, we have
But-
neighborhoods, Forky, too.
How-
Don't forget, we have
Wait,
neighborhoods.
wait. You have not provided that information to us about the wastewater treatment plant needing an upgrade, that we're at 75% capacity? You've not provided that to us.
Not at this point, sir, we have
But how
not.
do they know?
I
No,
know.
I just asked him, and that's
Yeah,
how.
I know.
No,
So I heard it at the same time you did.
Because I asked him questions about things.
Forky, I heard it at the same time you did. I asked him
Okay.
the question, that's how I got
Some
the
of
answer.
us have been in discussions with Cecil Hall and all that, and Linus have talked about the capacity of the sewage plant. And we know that within the next some years, we're gonna have to do something with that plant.
Yeah.
Well,
because Buddy
this,
talked to us about
okay,
it.
you're talking about some years. At this point right now, if you're talking a couple of years from now, aren't we getting the second check for the rescue plan also?
You'll have,
That we can utilize for what you're talking about
You'll-
now and take care of what we need now?
You'll have
and not
this-
2 years from now?
Johnny, you'll have the second check this time next year. The first check that we've already received, and at least the limited conversations I've heard from everybody, not just 1, 2, or 3, I think you're on the right track as far as earmarking some of those funds, whether it's for businesses, whether it's for utility bills, whatever formula you want to come up as a governing body, I think we need to do that. But then I would also say that the majority of those funds need to go maybe towards AMI water meters, because AMI water meters are going to provide an efficient level of service to your residents, that you're not going to have meter readers out there going to read meters. They're going to be read from City Hall. The real-time data that not only the city can receive, but the customers can receive. It's just a more efficient use, and it's also going to help on the cash side as
I
well.
thought we already had those, didn't we?
You have AMI on the
AMI.
electric side, which David,
That doesn't lead to job elimination. I mean, if they're gonna be reading meters from City Hall. David, I have a question for you.
Oh, okay.
Who determines how is the wastewater treatment plant? who's gonna look into it? Who's gonna get a report and provide us where it's at?
Clarify.
Where it's at, when's our next meeting? October 11, whenever.
25th.
Can a report be brought to us that day to tell us what capacity is at?
Absolutely, we can bring you statistical metrics of where the plant's running.
Who-
Just a little clarification on.
Who does that study?
That would be
Who looks?
Stephen Winters.
Pardon me?
Stephen Winters. He maintains all those records. We already have them. It's just a matter of bringing them to you if you'd like to see them. A little clarification on the 75%. That's what kicks in the planning stage, where TECQ expects us to be actively planning how we're going to handle that plant. When it gets to 90%, we need to already be in construction. We have gone over 75% on a couple of occasions that were somewhat tied to storm infiltration. We generally run about 62% and pretty steady, but it's climbing gradually, and it will climb faster as we get more development. So we're not at 75% continuously, and we're not on the radar for planning stage per se, but we do actively get there once in a while, so we need to be already proactive on that.
Right, but the information that we just got a mere 9 minutes ago is that we're at 75% capacity. That's what I wrote down. So.
We have hit 75.
Right, well, I mean, but you're saying that consistently it's not. You're a public works director, so you're the man. So you're telling me that consistently it's not at 75%, yet we heard that it's at 75% capacity. That's why we need to use American Rescue Funds for the AMI meters. This is not give and take. We're not gonna take money for something that we don't need off of funds that other parts of our community need.
That was for next year.
And then-
Next year
and
is
then-
what I was talking about.
And then during the first city workshop that was attempted, that was the first thing that came out about AMI meters, that it could be financed.
They can be, but they do qualify for the American Rescue Plan.
I
Which
understand.
is one of the reasons that that was recommended, was because it's a guaranteed use of that money without risk of it going back. It's a qualifying expense that we're
No,
looking at.
I understand, David, but I am not one that's going to penalize other things that we can use it for just so we can read meters from City Hall. I mean, I won't.
There's a lot of other benefits, and we probably should go through those benefits, but he also, I guess it was, Jeremy, he gave a presentation in the workshop before the city council meeting a while back, and so some people didn't hear that, but he's done it a couple times, is what I'm saying, so there's a lot of benefits to
That
AMI.
information pertaining to the plant out there, all that data is there because it was prepared in one of our discussions with Linus, so you have that.
Linus has said,
You have that somewhere, so
Yes, sir.
that should be easy for you to present to council.
Yeah,
My other suggestion is that we charge staff with going ahead and coming up with some alternatives to utilize that money, so we can have another discussion meeting, but have some facts behind it.
Yeah, and I just don't want to get it confused. The AMI was what we talked about doing for this year. The water treatment plant was going to utilize some of the money, some, not all. I don't know what it's going to take. That's something we have to come up with as a group. But we're going to have to pay. We're going to have to get money from elsewhere for that. But we can talk about those things. But we do need to make sure that we have money earmarked out of the next year's funds, not the check we just got, but next year's check for that water treatment center. The fact that we're hitting 75%, I mean, that's a red flag, right? That's why we should be looking into it. And the AMI thing would be, it's going to be good for the city of Hondo, and we can get, I mean, y'all can come up with another presentation to give us more information like the mayor said, but that's something that we should avoid just financing all of these
But
things
did
when
you
we
hear
have the
what
money.
he said, Brett?
Yes, I heard it.
It has been hitting at 75% at times,
Yeah, I heard.
but we're usually at what?
62.
62%?
Approximately 62 to 68 is our.
Okay, I got
And
another question.
let's remember-
On this MAI meters,
let's remember, Brett,
how many more meters do we need and what are we looking at?
For water,
It's $1.2 million to finish the system.
that is the bid amount to do the complete water transition, all the meters.
let's not forget, Linus has stated that they will not generate enough usage to affect our water treatment plant. And I have that in writing from Linus.
Well, that's true.
They have come out, because that was one of our concerns. Back in January, we discussed it at length, and they came back with a reply to us with one of our concerns. That was the main one. We do not have the money to build another water treatment plant. They came back and provided information to us that they will not generate enough usage to adversely affect our water treatment plant. And I can bring their response.
We have to plan for those
Council.
things, though. We have other developments coming in, we can't just like.
Mayor, I suggest, let staff come back with a proposal on how to spend the current $1 million, whether a portion of it goes towards utility bills, businesses, a portion towards AMI, and also with an understanding, where are we with the wastewater treatment plant? Let's come back with a program.
Perfect.
Okay.
Scott, when you do that, can you provide us with the balance?
Yes, sir.
I think we've done that in the past and it wasn't a huge amount of money.
It's not
On what was?
The balance that's owed on the delinquent COVID accounts, the utilities,
Yeah.
it's not much.
Right.
I remember we talked about that several months ago, but I don't know the exact amount. I can't remember.
It's not, yeah, it wasn't significant,
Okay.
for sure.
If we could kind of figure how much of this money we want to spend on MAI meters, but also, I mean, we don't have to do them all at one time, and also for the small businesses that are, I think you've heard from a few, Scott.
Yes, I have.
That are really hurting.
Yes.
And the businesses are hurting because I'm gonna say because we can't get people to work.
Okay. We'll look at it.
One mention on the bid for the water AMI, that is an installed price. So they come in and they do turnkey jobs.
So it would be hard not to do it all at one time, even if we didn't.
Well, I mean, we could maybe use half of this money for that and maybe finance a portion of it if we can finance it. And not hurt the rest of the stuff that needs help also.
I would agree with that.
Is a consensus that we go ahead and have a further discussion on the American Rescue Funds at a later date, as soon as staff can prepare some alternative items for it?
Could we have that for next council meeting,
Next council meeting. Sure.
2 weeks?
We'll try.
The tricky
Okay,
thing,
no,
the tricky
we need-
thing's gonna be
we
the
need to-
utilities.
Sir?
The tricky thing's gonna be the
Yeah.
utilities.
We'll get it to you.
Okay, let's
Okay.
try.
Okay.
Anything else on item 11? Item 12, presentation of council of 3 complaints alleging violation of home rule charter, to wit, complaint by Mayor Pro Tem Bobby Bella alleging violation of charter by Mayor James Danner, Alamo Workforce Board meeting. B, complaint by Mayor Pro Tem Bella alleging violation of charter by Mayor James Danner, police chief salary. And C, complaint by Mayor James Danner alleging violation of charter by Mayor Pro Tem Bobby Bella, city project update. Mrs. Thomas, are you here?
I am. Can you hear me, Mayor?
Oh, okay, yes. Turn that item over to you.
All right, thank you. I'm just going to very briefly present these, and then we have on our agenda to convene into executive session for legal advice, following which we have several other action items on the agenda. So I'll just go over the complaints with you quickly. The first one is a complaint against Mayor Danner filed by the Mayor Pro Tem. And basically the facts alleged are as follows. On August 12, the mayor called Jamie Kindred and instructed her to make sure everything was ready for the Alamo Workforce Board meeting scheduled for the morning of August 13 at the training center. The city manager had already made arrangements for Sharon Garcia to coordinate the meeting with Alamo Workforce Board. When Sharon arrived in the morning for the meeting, she found Jamie Kindred at the training center. Sharon asked Jamie what she was doing at the training center. Jamie stated the mayor asked her to be there to make sure everything was, I can't read this word, for the Alamo workforce meeting. Sorry, I've got a kind of a bad copy. And I think it might say everything was done. So that's the first complaint. The second complaint is also against Mayor Danner, also alleged by the Mayor Pro Tem. And it says, in March 2021, the city council instructed the mayor with whom the new city manager, when the new city manager arrived, that the salary for the interim city manager, Brian Valenzuela, should be reduced to his base salary as the chief of police. Brian Valenzuela received a $10,000 bonus for his service as interim city manager. Instead of adhering to the city council's direction, the mayor and the chief of police instructed the director of human resources to keep the police chief's salary at the level of interim city manager. And then the final complaint is against the Mayor Pro Tem by the mayor, and it alleges on Friday, August 7, 2020, Councilman Vila, in a site visit to a city project involving Blake, can't read that last word, sorry, again, this is a bad copy, conversed with the Assistant Public Works Director, William Stewart, asking for an update on the project. During the conversation, Councilman Vila complained about the progress of the project in an abusive manner. He then directed Mr. Stewart to reach out to the city engineers to get an update on the project, and then directed Mr. Stewart to call him back with the information. And you've all been given copies of these by email, so I know you've had a chance to review them. That is the basis of each of the three complaints. And with your permission, I'd like to now go have us convene into executive session so we can discuss those and the other items on the agenda.
All right, we're going to executive session at 7:17.